everyone, I'm Princess Link, and Miata-con. Welcome back to Metal Gear Solid 4. Is my tongue blue? I don't think it is. Okay. Chapter 2. The place where our battle began. A small lump of rock surrounded by the sea. The Aleutian, I'm not sure if I pronounced that right, island stretched like a necklace across the Pacific from the chin of Alaska to Russia's Kamchatka Peninsula. The Aleutian low-pressure area drew in Arctic air and often left the chain of islands exposed to tremendous cold. But despite being so close to the North Pole, the climate of the archipelago was milder than Siberia or Anchorage, partly due to volcanic activity along the Ring of Fire. I fell into a ring of fire, I went down, 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 and the flames went higher, and it burns, 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 the ring of fire, the ring of fire. And the Aleutian current flowing along its southern edge. The Arctic was generally warmer than the Antarctic, also because the surface of the ocean has a tendency to retain heat. The temperature above frozen ground and thick layers of snow differed from that above water. The Fox Archipelago sat on the Alaskan side of the Aleutians, and the island, built from the volcanic fires of Old Moses after World War II, lay close enough to the island group that a ship would need to take care when sailing between. The Aleutian fishermen considered the idea a place of great evil, and none came near. Even if they had, there were no natural harbors. Sheer cliff face surrounded the land on all sides. The fishermen called the island the Shadow of Moses. This is one time. I feel like I keep randomly bringing up to my post, but it's like, is Shadow Moses called that for a reason, or are they just like a bunch of other, like, shadow biblical islands, like Shadow Paul Island, Shadow Naomi Island, Shadow David Island, Shadow Ham Island, Shadow Jesus Island, I don't know. Anyway, Snake rode the freight elevator from the cargo dock and arrived at the island's surface. A blizzard awaited him. The fury of the Aleutian low spread across the sea. Because the weather made landing an aircraft too dangerous, Snake had approached the island first by submarine, then by a smaller submersible called an SDV, or Swimmer Delivery Vehicle. For the last stretch of the icy Bering Sea, he swam. An injection of peptides temporarily boosted Snake's blood glucose level and lowered his body's freezing point to below zero, preventing him from freezing in the Aleutian water and drowning at sea. The concept worked the same way as mankind did during the Ice Age, essentially cultivating diabetes. Despite the severe weather, the island's occupiers seemed determined to fly a helicopter. Snake hid behind a sack containers beside the elevator and watched incredulously as the helicopter's rotors spun up. The Soviet gunship had once been the terror of Afghani jihadist fighters. R&D! Shadow Moses was supposed to be an American base, yet here was this attack beast built by their former adversary.
Colonel, what's a Russian gunship doing here?
I have no idea, the colonel said over the codec, but it looks like our F-16's got their attention. Now's your best chance to slip in unnoticed.
Another voice, sounding incredibly out of place, cut in. Wow, she said. She sounded like a teenage girl. He must be crazy to fly a hind in this kind of weather.
Who's that?
Snake asked.
Oh, the colonel replied. Sorry, I haven't introduced you to yet. This is Mei Ling. She designed your Soliton radar system.
Nice to meet you, Snake. Mei Ling's voice possessed a childlike, innocent quality. It's an honor to speak to a living legend like yourself. That, of course, was 9 years ago. Snake's infiltration of the nuclear warhead storage facility captured by Foxhound began there. Mei Ling, who at that time had still been a young undergrad, now captained Missouri. Her transfer might have been a sinecure, but the position still enabled her to wield a significant portion of the military's resources. She had used the position of the Mark II's last transmissions to predict the course of Liquid's ship. Just as we thought, Liquid had come to Shadow Moses. May obtained photos of the island taken by a civilian and 3 of SOP control imagery satellite. A large dark shape resembling liquid ship had hidden within the rocky shore. The U.S. government had sidelined May and Merrill's careers out of a desire to leave Shadow Moses in the past, forgotten. All records of the incident had been falsified or erased with no trace left behind, as if nothing had ever happened. Metal Gear Rex's broken husk remained there, abandoned, along with its stealth nukes and the stockpile of warheads left over from the Cold War. May offered to give us support. Okay, I'm sorry, it's a really weird pet peeve of mine, but I hate it when people call Mei Ling May. Like, no. I hate it. I can't stand it. I don't know why. It's like, no. Stop calling her that. That's not her name is Mei Ling. First name Mei, last name Ling. Mei Ling. That's her name. She doesn't have a last name. Because that's not how Chinese names work. Yeah, I was talking about it on, I was streaming Sims yesterday, and I started talking about how, like, Mei Ling is actually one of the few Chinese characters made by a non-Chinese person who actually has, like, a proper Chinese name. Like, it's 2 characters, and then the surname is 1 character. Anyway. Yeah, bothers me so much. I don't know. I like to call Mei Ling Mei instead. Because, I don't know. Well, Mei means younger sister in Mandarin. It's not the same Mei and Mei Ling, but whatever. It's a different tone and stuff, but I don't know tones. You know, it's like the whatever. Not relevant. It's a different May, but whatever. May. Or maybe it's May, the May in her name twice instead of actual May as in little sister, youngest. Anyway, May offered to give us support. Why is this? Where did that come from? The decommissioned USS Missouri survived less as an actual battleship than as a training vessel. There had been no need or funds to retrofit the ship to be compatible with the system, and now Missouri was the only craft in the fleet still able to move. Once I jokingly told May it reminded me of Galactica. What is that? But she never watched TV much and didn't get the reference. What? Battleship Galactica or whatever? What's Galactica? I'm so confused. Now Snake had returned to the same heliport where he'd been introduced to May over the codec. We never looked back fondly upon the many hardships that led up to this day, and yet Snake standing here, back at the same place, stirred up strong feelings of nostalgia. The facility looked mostly unchanged after all these years. Alone in the helipad, Snake remained still. "Snake," I said, "are you all right?"
I was just thinking about how different this place looks during the day.
I had spent a long time on the island through Rex's development and testing, and was familiar with the facility at any hour. But now that I thought about it, this was Snake's first time encountering the heliport in the daylight. The infiltration op had taken place in the middle of the night. The cargo dock he'd entered by had since been reclaimed by the ocean, a victim of global warming. The elevator was frozen over, no longer usable. But that wasn't an obstacle for us, because this time Snake didn't come by sea. I rented a civilian helicopter and brought Snake and the Metal Gear Mike 3 to the island. Foxhound and the Next Generation Special Forces unit of genome soldiers were nowhere in sight. I think Snake was a little spooked by this empty daylight vision of the heliport. If not to put him at ease, I gave Snake a word of advice. I don't see anybody around, but there are unmanned sentries patrolling the area. Be careful out there.
Yeah.
His voice sounded more pained than ever. In a few short days, he traveled the world from the Middle East to South America, to Eastern Europe, and now Alaska. Snake's body had aged too much to withstand the severe changes in temperature and air pressure. The cold air carried by the Aleutian low sent the temperature to 20 below. The lungs of a 70-year-old couldn't last long. Snake crossed the heliport and stood before the facility's giant doors. When he was last here, the front gate was shut down tight, and he had to find entry through an air duct. But now the doors had been left wide open, and Snake found himself feeling oddly crestfallen and unsatisfied. And wasn't there a surveillance camera here? Snake turned his eyes to the right of the door where a CCTV camera had once kept vigilant watch for intruders. Left exposed but to the ocean wind and the cold. Without anyone to maintain it, the camera had gradually rusted away and fell to the ground where it now lay half buried beneath the snow. Snake stepped into the building. This is so gothic horror. I thought, what does that mean? A place where we have gone. Sometimes it's hard for me, 'cause everybody follows what they want. Don't you know? All sweet days have passed me by. There's no storm won't stop. Someone told me so. Just everything about you can't stop myself. Something's just begun. Tell me what I will think about you. Don't go away. I will stay for you. Another day, another time, another sky we've seen before. Believe yourself, believe your words. Anyway, inside the sound of snow striking the building became an eerie howl echoing inside the empty space of the former tank hangar. This was our era's version of the old abandoned castles of Eastern Europe. The only way I'd have felt more surely would be if Count Dracula himself showed up. Him or Frankenstein's monster. I mean, Vamp's there. I mean, he's not a vampire. I don't know what that was. He's not a vampire. He's just a dude who drinks blood. Vampire body! They call me vampire because I love the taste of human blood. Well, I am a vampire. Oh my god, I love my immortal. I love my immortal. The room had been part of the armory, where tanks stood in rows with the infirmary and weapons storerooms below ground. Meryl and Snake first met within the building. She had been part of the training exercise and was locked in a cell by Liquid when she refused to cooperate in his uprising. Meryl escaped by tricking her guide and stealing his clothes, baby. Keep moving, Snake, I said. Head to the nuclear warhead storage building. There's not much time left.
No, there isn't.
Snake said, his voice heavy. Though I hadn't meant to, perhaps I had sent his thoughts to his own body. The fox-die virus Snake unknowingly carried had left both Decoy Octopus, who had taken on the guise of DARPA Chief Donald Anderson, and IMSEC President Kenneth Baker dead beneath this building. Now that same virus was undergoing a terrible transformation. Within his blood, the viral signatures that detected Baker and Decoy Octopus were eroding. As Snake exited the hangar and began to cross the snowy canyon that led to the warhead storage building, a thought came to me. Viruses, like influenza or HIV, it's not funny, could experience sudden mutations to withstand antimicrobials in medicine. As far as modern medical science had come, the viral variations numbered in the billions and trillions. Surely one would slip through the net and continue to evolve and survive. Every virus evolved. Why would anyone expect man-made nanomachines to behave any differently? No matter how careful the creation, how strict the parameters, only kill people with specific genetic patterns, for example. Once the virus was released into the wild, it would someday escape from the attentions of its makers. For viruses, that's simply the natural way. The researchers should have seen this coming. Men weren't gods. We could never hope to control billions, no, trillions of separate viruses. Taking the capability to suddenly mutate into account, the creation of nanomachine viruses was not a technique mankind was capable of mastering. Wait. An independent life form, once beyond the expectations of its creators, could not be stopped. The SOP could be said to be a virus with more hosts than any other. It couldn't be contracted through the air, but with this many carriers, the system could someday evolve far beyond the Patriots' imagination. Snake walked across the field where he had first confronted the Foxhound member, Vulcan Raven, a giant man with Inuit blood. The ground itself echoed with Raven's dying words. You are a snake that was not created by nature. In the natural world, there is no such thing as boundless slaughter. There is always an end to it, but you are different. The path you walk has no end. Each step you take is paved with the corpses of your enemies. He might have been right. Just as the shaman predicted, Snake's battle had continued. Raven foresaw a new world created by a man-made snake. His memory followed Snake across the field and into the nuclear warhead storage facility. I shuddered. The hundreds of nukes kept here for disassembly remained in racks along the walls and stacks of boxes in the middle of the room, and not under a particularly close watch. Anyone who knew of this location could easily obtain the warheads. Just throw them all into the sun! It definitely does. They can definitely only end well. Oh my god, I'm sorry. What happened? What happened? Where did I go wrong? No, But was that fear groundless? With the Patriots' control of information, almost no one knew of the facility. For military reasons, the island had never been marked on a map. Unmanned weapons, like Gecko and Scarabs, hired from a PMC, would provide sufficient security. Beyond the storage room would be another snowfield, where two twin transmission towers stood like miniatures of the former World Trade Center, and across that, the entrance to the deep underground service bay where Snake once destroyed Vex. I spurred Snake on. With the frost-covered rows of last-generation warheads left untouched within these ruins, the space seemed to me a catacomb stuffed with buried relics of the Cold War. Snake walked straight through the room to the security door on the other side. The gate had frozen over, still locked. Snake asked me what he should do, but I was already thinking of an answer. Security's shut down altogether. He can't release the lock without activating it. He'll have to go there. There, he can log into the security system. I've got it, Snake. My old office is close by. If the power's on, you should be able to unlock the door from there. And if you check the facility records, we can find out Rex's status and who's been in and out. You remember where it is?
I'm not senile yet.
Snake snapped. He knew I was making fun of his strong front. I laughed at the expected response and said, "Just be safe. I'm marking it on your map, old Snake." By the time the young man noticed something was wrong, he was already too late. From the hallway outside the lab came otherworldly screams. The walls were soundproofed, and the doors, governed by the personal area network, were bomb-proofed and made of thick metal. The screams must have been unimaginably loud to make it into the lab in the young man's ears. And there was only one door from the lab to the hallway. These days, scientists had to maintain the physical fitness and self-confidence of a lawyer or a pro athlete in order to keep their patrons. But this young man was an exception. His hair was as frazzled as a bird's nest, and he hadn't bothered to shave. He quickly scanned the room, but saw no place to hide. Sparks flew from the door's security panel. The door opened in a cloud of smoke, and a lone figure stepped into the room. The figure's silhouette was shockingly beautiful. That's gay! But the young man couldn't tell if body was even the right word. What? Anyway he looked at it, the intruder was no normal man. A powered exoskeleton, the young man said. Who are you? What at first had looked like muscles was an exoskeletal shell with complex detailing running in all directions. The intruder was a cyborg straight out of anime. What? The cyborg spoke behind a mask. Where is my friend? His voice, strange and clearly modified by some machine, echoed eerily behind the full head mask devoid of all features save for a single glowing orange eye. But none of that mattered. The young man's attention was focused on the long katana-like blade in the cyborg's right hand. Was this the source of the guide's screams? The young man stammered, What are you talking about? The sword-wielding half-man, half-machine steadily advanced, backing the young man into the corner. The young man was frozen, with nowhere left to run, when the cyborg suddenly stopped in place and slowly turned away. Another man in a full body suit stood in the middle of the room. His suit appeared to have some sort of body armor, but at least it wasn't a powered exoskeleton. You know, at least. The cyborg ninja cried out, his voice trembling with joy. Snake, I've been waiting for you.
Who are you?
The man in the bodysuit asked. The cyborg called him Snake, but Snake didn't seem to recognize this 21st century ninja, neither enemy nor friend. The cyborg's The cyborg's voice possessed an unsettling tinge of intoxication. I am back from a world where such things are meaningless. Now you and I will battle to the death.
What do you want?
I've waited a long time for this day. Now I want to enjoy the moment. The young man muttered nervously to himself. What's with these guys? They're like something out of anime. The two men standing before him, their attire and the words they exchanged contained no trace of reality. Only the terror of that blade was real. Only an unadulterated feeling. I don't want to die.
What is it?
The man called Snake asked.
Revenge?
No, nothing so trivial. A fight to the death with you. Only then can my soul find peace. I will kill you, or you will kill me. It makes no difference. The young man, hearing the ecstasy in the ninja's voice, ran, but his mind was so overcome with fear he had only escaped straight into the open locker behind him. And then this like disappeared. Excuse me, have any of you seen the entire lower half of my body? Ha! Fine. The cyborg laughed with a glance at the windless hiding job. He couldn't watch from inside there.
I need that man. Keep your hands off him.
Snake emanated defiance, and the ninja drew joy from it, coursing through his body. Now, make me feel it, the ninja said. Make me feel alive again. Oh my god. 9 years had passed, but the lab hadn't changed a bit. Way to skip over pissing yourself, pal. I mean, fair, but also. bed. Flush. Oh, Plushy. Over there. He's on my bed. He's taking a nap. The room had been untouched by the wind and snow and went unexposed to the sea air. Only a layer of dust had deposited itself in the solitude. The workspace remained in the same disheveled state from the battle between Snake and the cyborg ninja, who was later revealed to be Grey Fox. For 9 years, the dust had settled. On top of the work desks, supercomputer racks in the locker where I'd hid, and now the stirred up particles. For 9 years, the dust had settled. On top of the work desks, the supercomputer racks in the locker where I had hid, and now the stirred up particles sent Snake into a fit of coughing. When the violent coughing showed no sign of stopping, Snake pulled out Naomi's auto-injector and hurriedly pressed it against his neck. While he took a few moments to collect himself, I scoured the room with a Mark III. Much had happened here. At a computer behind a glass partition, many times I had run calculations in order to strengthen Rex and simulations for his walking algorithms. I built mathematical models and made modification after modification. I calculated and recalculated and recalculated again, until finally, one day, Rex took its first step. I could never forget that day. An incredible number of man-hours went into the formulae that maintained Rex's balance and motion. How the robot's enormous parts should connect, how much pressure should be put where, how much strain the parts could withstand. A mind-boggling array of hundreds of interconnected operations comprised Rex's ability to walk. When Snake had recovered, I asked him to lift the Mark III on top of the workspace. The terminal's input jack was still operational, and I jacked in the Metal Gear's manipulator arm. I probed the electrical system. Most lines on the island were still active, and I wouldn't have too much trouble rerouting the necessary power. I started by restoring the lab's lifeblood. Why would there still be power if it's just an abandoned island? Like, that doesn't even make sense. Oh my god. These aren't real glasses, by the way. I got them. This is a stuffed animal. They're for the stuffed animal, but I mean, they fit me. I don't know if that says... I don't know what that says about me. Maybe I just have a small head. Anyway. One by one, the monitors came back to life. The climate control exhaled for the first time in 9 years and set dust dancing into the air. This version's totally obsolete, I said to myself. This is gonna take a little work. Using the password from when I hacked into the system to save Snake, I bypassed the security. Think about how Otacon worked for the FBI and then got fired for hacking into the FBI. Like, oh my god, I love him. I bypassed the security. As I worked, Snake sat on the edge of the desktop and glanced at the corner of the room with the locker door still open. Embarrassed, I said, "This room isn't conjuring up any unpleasant memories, is it?" "No," Snake said, but I couldn't help but wonder if the carpet where I wet myself was, as I cowered in fear, still carried the stain. How could I not think about it? It does. "You saved my life," I said. Until this moment, I hadn't realized that I'd spent all this time with Snake, never having expressed my appreciation to him for rescuing me from Frank Jaeger. I was profoundly grateful to have finally said something, and to have come back to this place, remembering everything, including my life, Snake had given me. It's scary. There were a mountain of things I needed to thank him for before he passed on, yet amid the day-to-day struggle, I'd forgotten them all. Snake, as if I hadn't said anything, was absorbed in his own memories.
"Naomi hated them for what they did to Frank's body," he said. "But it was I who crippled him in the first place. She must have hated me too."
Dude, that was totally Frank's fault. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. It's Grey Fox. Grey Fox is the one who started the fist fight. that got him killed. He didn't have to fist fight Snake. He didn't have to, but he did, and then he died. It's his fault. Deep regret overcame me. Some serious introspection seemed required into what exactly I had expected out of her, and yet the sin I carried was so similar to hers. Our own technological creations had twisted the world, and we shared a common guilt. And so, carelessly, I trusted her. I said to Snake, "But she was only using us to atone for her sins."
So what?
Snake's response left me confused. "You forgot already? She betrayed you. She stole your blood." He shook his head.
If that was all, she would have been done with us in South America. Why'd she join us afterward?
Well, I didn't know what to say. Snake's observation was dead on. Naomi had seduced me. She used me. Blinded by shame and regret, I hadn't seen anything else.
She has us come rescue her.
Snake said.
And then she turns and goes straight back to Liquid. Why would she do that?
"I don't know," I replied. It didn't make any sense. If her goal had been to obtain Snake's blood for the SOP, she could have escaped South America with Vamp. And I had trouble she'd boarded Nomad to plant some transmitter or bug. She might have come to kidnap Sunny, but she hadn't done that either. There were a great many things she could have done for Liquid's benefit, but didn't. So what was her aim? Now it seemed she was back with Liquid. I pulled the security access logs. The passageways had remained nearly empty over the 9 years since we'd left the island. Now, just a few hours earlier, 2 others had come to the facility. I routed the security footage to the Mike 3's flip display and showed Snake the 2 visitors, Naomi and Vamp.
Beauty and the Beast,
Snake said. Okay. Obviously, Naomi's the Beast. Wait, no, I was reading Metal Gear Werewolf. It's like, Snake's the blue-eyed beast. I have issues. The hallway was dim and the feed was low res and filled with static, but the tall man in the long coat and the woman in the dress couldn't have been anyone else. They walked down the underground passage to Vex's hangar. Into the Cold War Gothic ruins entered the vampire and the beauty. I rubbed my eyelids, fighting back a wave of impatience at having been beaten to the facility. We were late, like always. But this time, if we failed to catch up, there would be no future. Not for us, and not for the world. Snake emerged through the unlocked security door of the warhead storage room and into another field of snow. The raging wind sheared off the top of the snowpack and kicked up clouds of white. Visibility wasn't even 10 feet. So as not to get lost, I guided Snake with the Mike 3. We passed between the twin transmission towers and onto a comparatively flat plain. Then I realized where we were Snake had defeated Sniper Wolf. "Wolf," I said to the computer screen. The Mike 3's camera showed only the flowing white snow, but this was where the woman I once loved now rested. The Mike 3's wait, I should do that. When I was in Foxhound's captivity, she had looked after the island's resident wolf dogs. She was different from the rest of her group. She was kind to the animals, and to me. Maybe you'll laugh, but that was enough to make me fall in love. At the time, Snake called it Stockholm Syndrome, the psychological tendency for kidnapped victims to feel a sense of closeness or friendship toward their captors. Whatever the case might have been, Wolf was the first woman I'd met in a long time who I could approach without feeling scared. Without evoking that despicable relationship with my stepmother that broke the bond between brother and sister. For so very long, women scared me. Whenever one entered my life, my world became further unhinged. But Wolf was different. She was born a Kurd. The name of her people came from the word for wolf, and to be born a Kurd was to live on a battlefield. She was raised fighting Turkey and Iraq in the defense of her very existence. Through the scope of her sniper rifle, she watched the battlefield, both a part of it yet at the same time distant. Perhaps I sympathized with her. Burdened with painful memories of my family, I too kept the world and all its people at a distance. And here on this field I lost my first love in a long time. There had been no avoiding the confrontation. Snake needed to defeat her, and Wolf needed to kill him. Neither had any cause to hesitate. I never even factored in. If I mistrusted Naomi because she had reason to hate Snake, I guess I had reason to hate him too. He'd killed the woman I cared for. Of course, I've never entertained that sentiment, but I bet there were more people who hated Snake for a similar reason than there were fingers on my hands. Snake never wanted to fight, but he lived with the consequences of his battles. Those he killed might have had people who loved them. People left with enmity and the lingering pain of having lost someone dear. Their revilement, viscid and rotten, worked into his being and refused to let go. Perhaps the concentrated emotions were the cause of Snake's age. It wasn't Snake's fault. Snake had never asked for this. No matter how many times I said it, I doubted the dead, joined with the gods, and no longer, with mortal reason, would ever understand. Snake was the sacrificial lamb. He attracted the world's ire, but like the lamb up for offering, the responsibility wasn't his own. Through the wind and snow came sorrowful howls, as if the wolf dogs were still in mourning after these 9 years. Did the dogs that gathered around her body that day still hate Snake? I found that hard to believe. I hope they didn't.
Imagine a dog just really hates you. It's so funny. Just a dog. I mean, I guess that happens. But, like, normally it's, like, the dog, like, oh, my dog hates my boyfriend, and it turns out my boyfriend's been hitting my kid when I wasn't around. You know? Or, like, there's, like, a million stories like that.
I prayed the wolf dogs had forgiven him and come to understand as I did. There had been no other way.
I mean, considering how long dogs live, I kind of doubt those same dogs are still there. I'm sorry, it's just how it is, you know? Anyway, if you like this, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!